My boss looked me straight in the eye, grabbed the door handle, and said, "Only senior staff inside." Then he shut the door in my face like I was the intern who brought coffee instead of the guy who built half the thing they were about to launch. That sentence has been looping in my head for weeks. I'm 29, a back-end engineer at a mid-sized tech company. Not Silicon Valley glamorous, more like industrial software. Boring dashboards that keep very expensive machines from doing very stupid things. We were about to roll out the biggest update in the company's history, a new platform our CEO had been hyping for months in every press release he could get his hands on. I'm not a founder, not a visionary. I'm the quiet guy who sits a little too close to the whiteboard, types more than he talks, and remembers everyone's coffee order, but forgets his own lunch. Most people in the office know me as Ethan from Infra. My boss, Mark, liked to call me Kiddo, even though I'm only 3 years younger than him. The funny part? For the last 6 months, Mark's vision for this product has mostly been me, in a dark conference room, staring at logs at 2 a.m., while he sent Slack messages like, "How's it looking, champ?" from his iPad at home. The piece I owned was the security and failover layer. Basically, if our system crashed, I was the one who made sure we didn't take our clients down with us. If anything went wrong during this launch, it was going to be my code either saving everyone's ass or lighting everything on fire. None of that stopped me from feeling small when I woke up that morning. Launch day fell on a Thursday. I remember because I ironed a shirt for the first time in months. Light blue, no wrinkles. I even shaved properly instead of the usual good enough pass with the trimmer. I told myself it didn't matter. Nobody was coming to see me, but my hands still shook a little when I buttoned the cuffs. My apartment was quiet, too quiet. I made coffee, stared at my reflection in the microwave door, and practiced saying one sentence out loud. "If we're touching anything related to failover, you loop me in." My voice sounded smaller than I wanted it to. At 8:45 a.m., I swiped my badge at the office, and the building felt different. No casual hoodies and sneakers. Everyone had decided today was their serious persona day. Pressed shirts, dresses, actual shoes instead of the usual beat-up Vans. Marketing had taped glossy posters along the walls with our new logo and phrases like "a new era" in fonts that made my eyes hurt. "You clean up nice, Ethan." Jenna from QA appeared at my shoulder, balancing a laptop and a coffee the size of her head. "So do you," I said. "Is that eyeliner?" "Don't get used to it," she muttered. "We have VPs on site. I'm trying not to look like I live under my desk." We walked toward the dev area together. My monitor was already on. I'd left it that way the night before after pushing the final build. My inbox was filling with calendar updates and nervous check-ins. At 9:12 a.m., Mark strode in like he was landing a plane. Dark suit, white shirt, no tie. He loved that look. Casual authority. "Morning, team," he announced, clapping his hands once. "Big day. Everybody breathing?" "Barely," Jenna muttered under her breath. He glanced around, eyes skimming over screens. "Ethan, you good with the rollback scripts if the demo ENV freaks out?" "I've tested them 3 times," I said. "If we hit any edge case, I'll see it in the logs before the dashboard even." "Great," he cut me off. "Love the confidence." He had that smile that doesn't touch his eyes. I'd learned to read it. It meant he'd already decided how the day was going to look, and my job was to stay invisible unless something broke. At 10 a.m., we had the pre-brief in the war room. I watched Mark rehearse his talking points in front of a huge screen. "This is where we are. This is where we're going. This is why you should keep throwing money at us." Product managers fussed over the slide order. Someone argued about whether the dark theme made the charts pop enough. My brain kept drifting back to the same thought. The only thing I care about is that the system doesn't fall on its face live. "Ethan," Mark called from across the room, snapping me out of it. "You'll be in the main conference room with us for the launch meeting." My stomach flipped. Yeah, of course. That shouldn't have been a big deal, but it was. The main conference room was where the CEO, the CTO, external partners, Even 2 board members were going to sit, while Mark drove the demo. I'd never been invited in there for anything other than hooking up HDMI cables. Just sit in the back, laptop open, he added. If anything looks weird, you slack me, don't talk unless I ask you to. Got it, I said. It still felt like a promotion. The hours between then and the meeting evaporated. I ran through logs, checked our metrics pipeline, kicked the tires on the staging envy one last time. Everything looked stable. Not perfect, but stable enough that I could breathe without tasting copper. At 1:45 p.m., my calendar notification popped up. Launch meeting. Conf A, 2:03 p.m. People started moving in that direction like it was a pilgrimage. I grabbed my laptop, charger, and the little notebook where I scribbled error codes when I didn't trust my own memory. Jenna caught my eye as I passed her desk and shot me a thumbs up. Don't let him throw you under the bus, yeah? She said quietly. I forced a smile. He'd have to drag me out from under it first. The hallway to Conference A felt narrower than usual. Through the glass wall, I could see the CEO already inside, laughing at something the head of sales had said. There was a tray with bottled water and neatly arranged notepads at every seat. The big screen showed our login screen, glowing like a stage before the curtain rises. Mark was at the door, shaking hands, playing host. He straightened his jacket every 30 seconds, like a nervous tick. When he saw me, his expression flickered. Not quite annoyance, not quite surprise. Something in between. Hey, I said, lifting my laptop a little as if to prove I belonged. Grabbing a chair in the back, like you said. He leaned in just enough that no one else would hear, but his tone was casual, almost bored. Yeah, about that, he said. We're tight on seats. Only senior staff inside for this one, okay? I need you in the dev pit watching the dashboards. If something goes sideways, I'll call. For a second, I genuinely thought I misheard him. The words didn't connect. I can watch the dashboards from here, I replied. I've already... He cut me off with a half-laugh that sounded like a cough. His hand landed on the door handle. Ethan, he said, lowering his voice, this is a high-level conversation. Optics matter. I can't have the room full of... everyone. Only senior staff inside. There it was, clean, dismissive, like I was an extra who'd wandered too close to the camera. I felt heat crawl up my neck. Not anger yet, just that slow, humiliating burn when you realize you've misjudged your own importance. You mean the people who didn't write a single line of the module we're about to show? I asked, before I could stop myself. His jaw tightened for half a second, then relaxed into that fake, friendly expression he used in one-on-ones, right before telling you, this is great feedback. Don't take it personally, kiddo, he said. Titles are what they are. Go sit with your team. If I need you, I'll ping. Cool? He was already turning as he said it, already angling his body toward the room where the real people were. I stood there, laptop pressed against my chest, while he pulled the door open wider for a VP walking by. Laughter rolled out, along with the hum of small talk and the clink of glass. Then he looked back at me, just for a fraction of a second, and added, almost as an afterthought, only senior staff inside. And he closed the door gently, like it was nothing. I sat there staring at the frosted glass, watching silhouettes move inside the room, people shaking hands, leaning over chairs, setting up laptops. My reflection floated on the surface, pale, tired, and smaller than I felt 10 minutes ago. But that was just the beginning. I walked back toward the dev area, each step landing heavier than the last. Not dramatic, not stomping, just slow, controlled, the way you walk when you're trying not to feel something. My laptop suddenly weighed twice as much. Conversations drifted around me, testers debating a bug, someone laughing at a meme, but everything sounded muffled like I was underwater. Jenna spotted me the moment I reappeared. She frowned. What happened? Apparently, I said, placing my laptop on my desk with surgical precision, I'm not senior enough to stand quietly in the back of the room. Her face tightened. He did not. "Oh, he did," I replied, with the door half closed behind him, like he didn't want the CEO to hear him demoting me in real time. Jenna muttered something under her breath that would have gotten her a meeting with HR. She turned her monitor toward me. "Look, sit here. I'll pull up the dashboards. I'll keep an eye on the pipelines. You focus on the logs." I shook my head. "No. If anything crashes, it's on me. I'm not letting Mark play dumb and blame the team." I sank into my chair, opened 6 terminals, and forced myself into the code. It calmed me, the same way breathing deeply does for normal people. At 2:05 p.m., the meeting officially kicked off. The live stream camera blinked red. Someone inside did a room-wide greeting. I couldn't hear the words, just the cadence. Mark's voice carried faintly through the wall. Fake confidence. Rehearsed pauses. "Ladies and gentlemen, today represents the culmination of months of hard work from our talented team. Our team," I bit the inside of my cheek. Jenna sat beside me, pretending to work, while actually glaring at the conference room door. Every 10 seconds. At 2:11 p.m., something flickered across my monitor. A single red metric blinked, then 2, then 5. My stomach clenched. The heartbeat monitor for the main API was spiking. Latency climbing way too fast. The autoscaler hadn't kicked in. Then the memory usage jumped. And then a log entry appeared that froze me. Cult failure. Main token mismatch. Process terminated. Restart attempt number 1. "What the hell?" I whispered. Jenna leaned in. "That's the authentication layer, right?" "That's the entire backbone of the platform," I said. "That's not supposed to happen. Not unless someone changed a config file this morning." She blinked hard. "Who touched configs today?" I didn't answer. We both knew the answer. Mark had insisted on one final polish pass this morning. He'd closed the door, refused help, and announced afterward, "All good, cleaned up the noise." At 2:14 p.m., another log line popped up. "Recovery failed. Rolling back. Error. Cannot locate stable build." Jenna turned to me slowly. "That's really not good. It's catastrophic," I murmured. And then, like a punch through the wall, Mark's voice leaked from the conference room. Hang on one moment, folks." The tone was wrong, fake cheerful, but strained. Inside the room, the chatter died instantly. On my screen, the entire cluster crashed. All of it. Not just the demo environment. Everything tied to the launch branch. Jenna whispered, "Tell me this is a joke." "It isn't." And then the silence. The kind that means something's gone wrong. At 2:17 p.m., my Slack pinged. Once, twice, then exploded. Ethan, need you, now. Urgent, get in here. Ethan, where are you? Come to conf, immediately. Jenna met my eyes. "Well," she said softly, "looks like senior staff needs you." But I didn't stand up, not yet. I stared at those messages, every one of them frantic, rushed, typed without ego. For the first time in months, something in me changed shape. Not anger, not revenge, a quiet, steady coldness. I closed Slack, stood up, and walked toward that room. Not fast, not dramatic, just a man who finally understood his value. I didn't knock. I opened the conference room door just enough to slip inside, and the air hit me like a wall. Stale, silent, thick with panic. 12 people sat frozen around the table. The giant screen behind Mark showed a spinning loader and a red error banner that might as well have been a fire alarm. Every head turned toward me. Murmurs, a few relieved exhales. One board member actually said, "Thank God." Mark was standing near the screen, pale, sweating through his expensive shirt. When he saw me, something flickered across his face. Not gratitude, not even shame. Fear. "Ethan," he blurted, forcing a smile that twitched at the corners. Good. You're here. We hit a minor hiccup with the deployment. Nothing huge, just a small auth thing." He gestured vaguely toward the screen like the words might magically fix it. I said nothing. I walked past the table, laptop under my arm, eyes on the failing logs. It felt like the room tilted, like the center of gravity had moved from the head of the table, where Mark usually planted himself, straight to the quiet guy who wasn't supposed to be here. The CTO cleared his throat. What exactly are we looking at, Ethan? The CEO leaned forward. Can you tell what's wrong? Mark jumped in before I could speak. It's probably a networking issue. We've had some VPN instability. I'm sure if we just... Stop! My voice wasn't loud, but it cut through the room like a blade. Mark blinked, caught off guard. The CTO looked at me again. Ethan, I opened my laptop on the edge of the table. It's not networking, I said calmly. It's the auth token mismatch. The system thinks the deployment was tampered with. A ripple of concern passed through the room. The CEO's eyebrow lifted. Why would it think that? I typed quickly. Because someone changed the final config file this morning. Silence. All eyes shifted to Mark. He laughed. Actually laughed. Too loud, too sharp. Come on, guys. Really? We're blaming config files now? I didn't touch anything major. I just cleaned... Mark, I said quietly, you deleted the backup pointer. A beat, then another. What? The CEO asked, turning slowly. I kept typing, my voice steady. He removed the link to the stable build. So when the system tried to recover from the error, which it should have done automatically, it had nowhere to fall back to. Jenna had entered the room without me noticing. She leaned against the wall, arms crossed, eyes locked on Mark with the slow-burning satisfaction of someone watching karma land a perfect punch. Mark sputtered, That's ridiculous. I would never. Ethan, maybe you forgot to... I didn't raise my voice. I didn't look at him. I just turned the laptop so the entire room could see the highlighted log lines. The CTO leaned in. His face hardened. The CEO leaned even closer. A VP actually whispered, Oh, my God. Mark's throat bobbed as he swallowed. The CEO straightened. Fixable? I nodded once. Yes. How long? 3 minutes to stabilize, I said. 10 to complete rollback. 5 more to restore the demo environment. The CEO gestured at the table. Give him space. Let him work. I took 1 step forward. Mark stepped in front of me. Actually, he said quickly, voice trembling, I think I should handle the talking points while Ethan... Mark. 1 word. Soft, but final. He froze. I didn't blink. Step aside. It wasn't a command. It wasn't anger. It was a statement of reality. For the first time since I'd known him, Mark obeyed instantly, like someone had cut the strings that held him upright. He moved away from the screen, away from the center of the room, away from the authority he'd pretended to own. I plugged in my laptop, hands steady, breath slow. Restarting the cluster, I said, restoring the stable build, clearing the corrupted tokens. The room watched in absolute silence as line after line of code scrolled across the projector. A director whispered, This is incredible. Another murmured, Why wasn't he in the room from the start? Jenna answered for me, under her breath but loud enough for the table to hear. He wasn't senior enough. Even the CEO turned at that. Mark swallowed again. His collar looked too tight. Progress bar, 40%, 65%, 92%. Then, system restored. Status, stable. The red warnings disappeared. The dashboard lit up green. People actually broke into applause. Small at first, then building, uncertain but grateful. The CEO exhaled and looked at me like he was seeing me for the first time. Ethan, he said, calm but deliberate, stay after the meeting. I want to speak with you privately. Mark's face drained of color, and in that moment, with the room steady again, with the tension lifting, with everyone realizing exactly who had saved their careers, I felt something inside me settle. Not triumph, not ego, just a quiet understanding. They thought I was gone. I wasn't. When the meeting finally ended, people didn't rush out the way they usually did. They moved slower, glancing back at me, giving small nods or murmured, "Good job," under their breath, as if they were adjusting to a new map of the office, one where I wasn't a footnote in the corner, but the person who held the whole thing together. Mark bolted first. He didn't even wait for the CEO to wrap up. He gathered his laptop with shaking hands, avoided eye contact with everyone, and practically jogged out of the room. Nobody stopped him. Nobody even pretended to. The door clicked behind him, and in the quiet that followed, I realized something. The room felt lighter without him. Jenna squeezed my shoulder on her way out. "I'm getting popcorn for whatever conversation comes next," she whispered. "Text me if the building catches fire." One by one, the others trickled out until only the CEO remained. A tall man in his 50s with a calm presence that usually made people straighten up when he walked by. Right now, though, he wasn't intimidating. He just looked thoughtful. He closed the door gently and turned toward me. "Ethan," he said, hands in his pockets. "Sit." I sat. He leaned against the conference table, studying me in a way that made me acutely aware of how tired I was. "First," he said, "thank you. You saved us today." I nodded slightly. "It's my job." He tilted his head. "Is it?" I didn't know how to answer that. He continued. "Do you know what the most interesting part of that meeting was?" I stayed quiet. The fact that half the executives in that room assumed you were a senior engineer, the other half assumed you were the tech lead. Not one person thought you were a junior or mid-level. And yet, he tapped his fingers lightly on the table, you weren't even supposed to be in the room. The words hung there, sharp and clean. "I wasn't invited," I said. My voice sounded steadier than I felt. Why? I knew the answer. So did he. But I said it anyway because it needed to be said out loud. Mark likes to run things alone. He thinks titles matter more than competence. A humorless smile touched the CEO's mouth. "Yes, he does." He pushed off the table and walked a slow circle around the room, as if weighing something invisible in his hands. "And that's precisely why he won't be running anything after today." I blinked. He kept walking. "I've had concerns about Mark for months. Poor communication, ego issues, taking credit for team output, underestimating technical staff. But today wasn't a warning sign." He paused behind me. "Today was a verdict." Silence. Heavy. Final. He rounded the table and stood in front of me again. "I'm letting him go." It wasn't dramatic. No flourish. Just a calm statement of fact that landed harder than any shouting ever could. I exhaled slowly. Not quite relief, not quite disbelief, something in between. "And you," the CEO continued, "are going to step into a bigger role." I straightened instinctively. "You've been carrying disproportionate weight for months. Your work today proved what your performance reviews only hinted at. I'm moving you to lead engineer on the infrastructure team effective immediately. Title change, salary bump, direct input into roadmap decisions." My heartbeat felt loud in my ears. I started, then stopped. "Thank you." He nodded once. "You earned it." Then softer. "You were supposed to be in this room from the start. That won't be a question again." He gathered his notes, closed his laptop, and headed toward the exit. Just before opening the door, he looked back. "Get some rest, Ethan. Big things ahead." When he left, the room felt strangely warm. Sunlight poured through the glass wall, catching dust in the air like tiny sparks. I sat there alone for a moment, letting everything settle. Lead engineer. Mark fired. A seat at the table, not as a favor, but because I belonged there. I finally packed my things, closed the conference room door behind me, and started down the hallway. People looked up as I passed. Some curious, some impressed, some just trying to act normal after witnessing a slow-motion implosion. I reached my desk. Jenna was waiting, leaning against it with 2 vending machine coffees in her hands. "Well?" she demanded. "He's gone," I said. "That fast?" "He's gone," I repeated. "And you?" I hesitated just 1 second, just enough for her eyes to widen us. Then, lead engineer. She let out a victorious, echoing, wildly inappropriate laugh that turned 3 heads nearby. "About a damn time." We clinked paper cups like it was champagne. But when I finally left the building, the celebration faded into something quieter, heavier, more grounded. The air outside was crisp, cars hummed distantly. The late afternoon sun washed the glass facade of the building in amber. I stood on the sidewalk, holding the strap of my backpack, breathing in the kind of calm I hadn't felt in months. No adrenaline, no anger, no triumph, just peace. The kind that comes when a line is crossed, and for once, crossed in the right direction. I walked to my car, each step steady, and pulled the door open. The seat felt familiar again. The steering wheel felt like mine. The world felt a little wider. No questions left. No loose ends. No what-ifs. Just the clean, quiet certainty of someone finally standing in the space he's earned.